ready to meet our new friends? What do you think? Yeah? Well, hey friends, it has been a minute, but for good reason. I'm a mom now, and I've got a little someone that I want you to meet. This right here is baby Oliver. He is just over a month old and truly the sweetest thing, our rainbow baby and the most precious blessing. There's a lot that I want to catch you up on, including our birth story, how I'm doing, how he's doing, as well as just how the fourth trimester is going for us so far. So figure, why don't we begin by chatting through some of the birth story. So as you would have seen if you watched my third trimester vlog, I ended up going into labor, I think it was 3 or 4 days early. I always kind of get confused on how you count the days, but it was 3 or 4 days before my due date, and honestly that was a huge surprise to me. I was really mentally preparing myself for just going 41 weeks, having an induction. Like I was really just trying to prepare myself mentally for going pretty late, and so the fact that he came early was a huge surprise. I started really noticing more consistent contractions at around 4 p.m. I'd had kind of some sporadic ones earlier in the afternoon, but I think it was around 4:30 when I started timing contractions, and at first they were coming fairly consistently, 12 to 15 minutes apart, lasting for about 40 seconds. They really weren't all that painful. It kind of felt like period cramping, and that's kind of where they stayed for the first few hours, but then over the course of the evening they really did ramp up. And I really went back and forth kind of prior to going into labor whether I wanted to film my entire birth experience, and kind of left it to the last minute to decide. But when I got in the moment, and especially as my just contractions started getting more and more painful, I really just started feeling like this was an experience that I wanted to have without feeling the need to record, if that makes sense. And it really was just such a, yes, painful, but also just special and sacred time as I reached those last few hours of looking forward to Oliver's arrival. I just wanted to spend that time with Christopher and just to focus on the birthing process. So yeah, I didn't film a birth vlog or anything like that, but it really was just a sweet and hard, but also sweet time. So that evening, kind of especially as my contractions got more and more consistent, faster and faster, and also more painful, Christopher just spent the evening with me, really doing just the best job supporting me, encouraging me, all of that. We spent probably the hours of 9 p.m. to midnight. That's kind of when it really started getting a lot harder, a lot more real. Spent those together before deciding around midnight, just not knowing how long labor was going to take, to try to get some rest. So we both went to bed. Christopher, I think, was able to get a few hours of sleep. I really tried to get some rest, some sleep in between contractions, but I think by that point I'd already been having them since 4 p.m. so they'd reached a level that I personally couldn't sleep through, and so I rested as much as I could, closing my eyes, all of that. But yeah, eventually I just kind of gave up, decided to go over to the couch to finish laboring from home, and I think it was at around 4 a.m. that I finally reached the point where our hospital said it's usually a good idea to go to the hospital to go to triage to see if you're ready to be admitted, because I've been having contractions that they'd consistently been getting closer and closer over the course of the evening, but they were coming fairly regularly 4 to 5 minutes apart, lasting a minute, and that had been happening for an hour. And also, I'd reached the point where the contractions were so painful that I couldn't walk through them, couldn't talk through them, and so yeah, it felt like time, I guess. It just felt right to go to the hospital. So I ended up waking up Christopher. We went to the hospital. It was a very uncomfortable drive, but around 4:30 we made it to the hospital, got checked, and this was probably the most demoralizing part of my birthing experience. I was only 1 centimeter dilated at that point. It was 90% effaced, so that was good progress, but that 1 centimeter just felt hard because my contractions were very painful at that point, and I had been experiencing them for 12 hours at that point. But fortunately, because it was the middle of the night, I was the only person in triage, and so the nurses said that if I wanted to, I could spend some time walking around the hospital using the birthing ball just to see if I could move things along. And so Christopher and I did that for a couple of hours. We just walked the halls of the hospital, bounced on the birthing ball, and by 7:30 when I got checked next, I had progressed to 4 centimeters dilated, which was so exciting. And at that point, they said that I could get admitted to the hospital, or if I wanted to go home and to try to rest. And because I'd already tried the whole resting and sleeping at home thing, I really didn't want to have to deal with driving home for 30 minutes to not be able to sleep, because we already tried and tested that, knew I couldn't do it, and then I would have had to drive 30 minutes back to the hospital. I was like, no thank you, please just admit me. And so we did that. I was kind of still wanting to wait on getting an epidural. I was never opposed to getting an epidural, but I really wanted to wait until I met my personal pain tolerance threshold before getting one. And so we kind of wanted to see if there was anything else that we could try first to help me to be able to sleep, because at that point I've been up for 24 hours. So we tried morphine to see if that would kind of take the edge off just a little bit to enable me to rest for a while before kind of continuing with the efforts of getting little Oliver out. And so we tried that, and honestly, it really didn't feel like the morphine did that much. It maybe took the pain off 10%, but still nowhere near close to enough for me to rest, especially at this point because the contractions had gotten significantly more painful. So yeah, I think it was at around 11:30 a.m. I finally decided, yes, I'm going to get an epidural. Honestly, just because I needed to sleep. I knew that I still had a ways to go left with my labor, and that if I was going to be able to push towards the end, I really just needed sleep. I needed to rest. And so got an epidural, and it was honestly perfectly placed. I was able to move everything still, but not feel the pain, which was just such a gift and really enabled me to sleep for a couple of hours, to rest up. And kind of from I think 11:30 to 4-ish, I on and off slept for probably 3-ish hours, and that was really all I needed to be able to just have a refreshed energy and presence and just peace of mind to be able to kind of continue with labor. So around 4 p.m. when we decided to start things up again, we just began getting me into different laboring positions. Obviously, I'd had the epidural, so it was all in bed, but we were able to use the peanut ball for me to kind of switch from side to side. We did a sitting position, and from I think 4:30, I think that's when I was checked, I was 6 centimeters dilated. Oh, my water hadn't broken yet. And so when they checked me that time, it kind of half came out then. It was like some of the water, but not all of it, which we didn't realize at the time. They thought my water broke then, but they later realized that there was an entire other section that I guess just because of the way it rolled up, my water ended up breaking in 2 stages. So half of my water broke then. I was at 6 centimeters. We did the 2 side to side poses. That got me up to 8. And then we did that final sitting up pose, which I was in for about an hour. And guys, that was a pretty painful position, even with the epidural. I just remember being incredibly uncomfortable, having a lot of pressure on my tailbone. But that position really did its job, because by the end of that hour, I was 10 centimeters dilated +2. The other half of my water broke, and I started feeling the urge to push. My contractions were still fairly far apart from literally 4 a.m. until basically when I gave birth. My contractions stayed fairly well from 3 to 5 minutes apart. But I was feeling good, I was in a good place, and so we decided to start the pushing process. I think it was at around 7 p.m. And so we kind of got into position, and I ended up deciding to give birth kind of on my side. I had one knee up. They have a little, I guess, like brace that you can put your knee up on, and that just felt a lot more comfortable for me than laboring on my back. And honestly, guys, probably the most surprising part of the birthing experience for me was just how natural pushing felt. I don't know if it's weird to say that I enjoyed it. I'm sure the epidural helped so much, but the experience of pushing Oliver out, it just felt right. Like I was made for this. There's just a connection where my mind knew what muscles to use, and there's just that sense of anticipation, of excitement, of being about to meet my baby. And yeah, it was just a beautiful time. It really was, which is so funny because that's probably the part that I was most nervous and just scared of going into the birthing process, and I loved it. I really did. Probably it helped that it went pretty quick. So I ended up, from when we started pushing to when I had Oliver, I ended up only pushing for, I think it was 55 minutes. By 8 p.m., Oliver came through and was in the world, and just holding him for the first time. It was the sweetest thing. There was like probably a moment right after he came out where I had to mentally process the fact that the little bump that I've had, the big bump that I've had for so many months now, like that is this little human right in front of me. But then once my mind made that connection, it was just so many tears. Just such a beautiful, beautiful moment. Christopher was crying, and just seeing his face looking at our baby, especially after everything that we went through last year with our miscarriage, just holding our little rainbow baby in my arms, it was just the most beautiful thing. Yeah. But then one kind of funny story that came out of those first few days is, of course, when you have a baby, you gotta pick out a name for them. And we'd gone back and forth on different names that we liked, but probably 2 or 3 weeks before he was born, we'd picked out a name that we really, really liked. It felt right. We just kind of said it over and over, and it felt good to us. But then when we met Oliver, we started calling him the other name that we picked out, and just kind of sat on it overnight, and it just didn't quite feel right. So Oliver was actually the middle name that we'd picked out, and we just kept calling him blank Oliver, and the more I said Oliver, the more it just felt like that fit him. And so last minute, we were literally about to fill out the little whatever form that you fill out for their birth certificate. We decided to change his name. We're not planning to share what that other name was, just because there is a good chance that we use it for another baby. But it's just funny that Oliver's name came so close to not being Oliver, but now I can't imagine him being any other name. It really does fit him so well. We love the fact that Oliver has kind of the same cadence of Christopher. And then my name, Ashlynne, refers to the ash tree. Oliver refers to the olive tree. I love that the olive branch is a symbol of peace. And then also I love the country of Greece, and anytime I think of olive trees, I'm just immediately transported to my time there. And so, yeah, it's a name that we didn't just pick for one reason, but that just for a lot of little reasons felt right. But then fast forwarding a bit, I figured we could chat a little bit about how my postpartum experience has been, as well as just our first month, how I'm doing, how Oliver is doing. And I guess I want to get into this by just first recognizing that I know that a lot of people have some pretty hard challenges that they walk through in their postpartum experience, whether that's physically, dealing with recovery issues, mentally having postpartum anxiety, depression, or even challenges with their baby, whether that's health related or just them being fussy and not sleeping well. But I don't know, I've just been so grateful that we've had a really smooth and just sweet time postpartum. Of course, there have been so many nights where we're not getting a ton of sleep, especially in those first couple of weeks. But overall, it has just been a really special time, and I think I've been just shocked by how much I'm enjoying it. I am just so grateful that I really had a smooth physical recovery. I did end up tearing, but it was only a first-degree tear, so I had one stitch and have recovered pretty seamlessly from that. And my bleeding was all normal. And really within a few days of giving birth, I felt ready to start going on walks again. Yes, they were very slow walks at first, but we've been just consistently trying to get in just gentle movement every single day, whether that's going for walks or I've recently started exercising just a little bit here and there. Definitely wanting to kind of ramp that up a bit as we get further and further out, but so far I've just been taking things really easy. And then honestly, mentally and emotionally, I've just been really savoring this time. It's been so sweet just watching Oliver grow up, and every single day, every single week, I feel like I'm noticing all of these small changes just in what he can do. Maybe he can lift his head up a little bit more, focus. This week he's learning how to smile, which has been so fun. So it really has been an incredible time, and I'm just, so grateful that I've just been able to enjoy and really savor this time. Of course, there have been challenges. Learning how to breastfeed was a lot harder than I expected. I think in my head, I just figured it would be really natural that Oliver would know how to feed and that I'd be able to figure it out. Needed a little bit of support with that, but we really have been able to get into a great groove with that. And really across the board, he's been sleeping pretty well since I think it was about 2 weeks. He's pretty consistently given us a stretch of at least 4 hours, more recently 6 or 7 hours a night that we're able to rest, to sleep. He's been gaining weight, and he cries like a normal baby, but it really hasn't been anything unexpected. He cries to communicate, I'm hungry, I have a diaper, all of that. And so we're all adjusting really well. Christopher is back at work now, and I'm kind of slowly getting back into the swing of things with filming. So this is my first video back, but I do hope to start filming and posting videos once a week, maybe 2 at some point, but at least 1 to start off with, and maybe doing a short here and there just to sprinkle in a little bit of extra content. But I think if there's one thing that I'm learning, it's that this really is a season for me of presence over productivity. And I think in the past I've always prided myself on being someone who can get a lot done, who has a to-do list and checks off everything within whatever allotted time that I have. But having a baby, I'm really quickly learning that the best use of my time isn't necessarily to check off all of those boxes, but it's to stare at his beautiful face, to hold him, to just be with him, to spend time with him, to spend time together as a family. And I'm getting emotional talking about it, but I think right now my priority is to be here. That's what I'm learning. Oh, what did you think of that, bud? Yeah? You waking up? You waking up? Oh, hi. Oh, hi. Well, I guess that's my cue that I should probably wrap things up here, but I guess just the spark notes of this is that I'm doing so well. Oliver is doing great. Christopher is thriving. Honestly, probably my favorite thing, not Oliver related so far, has just been seeing what an incredible dad Christopher is. He told me a few weeks ago that he just feels like being a dad, it's his life calling, and just seeing him in action, you wouldn't believe anything other than that. He's just such a natural with Oliver, and it's so just encouraging and inspiring to me and makes me love him even more. So yeah, our little family of 3 is doing so well. So yeah, that's the update. Thank you all so much for being here with me on this journey to becoming a mom. I really appreciate all of you just being here, and I'm excited to share more with you soon. I think that there will probably be a little bit of just motherhood content sprinkled into my channel, but I am hoping to start getting back to a lot more of my regular content as well. I want to do some major decluttering and some organization, all of the things that I've kind of been putting off while we were in those first few weeks postpartum. So there's a lot coming, and I'm excited to just spend more time with you in the upcoming weeks. But I think that's everything for now. So until next time, friends, I hope you have an amazing day, and I'll see you in the next one. I'm going to go feed this guy. Big stretches. Oh, are you hungry? Yeah. Is it time to wake up? Hi. Hi, cutie. Hi.